It's 4:15 on a Tuesday afternoon in Newcastle, Australia. It is 7:15 in the morning in Manchester, England. And this is the only place in the world where the West Tigers can invent new ways to cause heartache and outrage. And where Warrington, apparently the equation for them, red card equals 8 in a row. Yes, this is the Sideline Chat podcast, the one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Hendry, I'm Connor Marcellus, and today it is your NRL Round 7 debrief. We got a lot of stuff to get into, so let's jump right in. And with the Dolphins up against South Sydney for Round 7 of the NRL Telstra Premiership.
For the away side being South Sydney, Alex Johnson has been named to returns. Isaac Thompson has been named despite picking up a small ankle injury, so he'll be monitored with Tane Milne listed as 18th man and on standby ready to replace Thompson if he is ruled out. Jai Arrow is back after his hamstring injury, and he replaces Tavita Totola, who's out with a knee injury.
Bad news for Wayne Bennett's side is that Jared Wallace has been ruled out with concussion, so he's unavailable, but that is offset by the return of skipper Jesse Bromwich, who will slide into the front row. Robert Jennings will also take Edric Lee's place in the lineup. Ray Stone back in the middle of the field with Herman Essie going back to the bench, and JJ Collins will make his Dolphins debut for the first time. Of course, the Dolphins, a remarkable turnaround for them after getting down by the Dragons in Wollongong, downing the Cowboys 32-22 in Townsville, while South, let's not go there, 50-16 winners.
Let's start with that
Dolphins.
one first, shall we?
If you want me to go there, I'll get angry. And you know what? Let's get angry right now.
Not too angry, though.
This game was an absolute disgrace. It was an absolute disgrace what happened and how that scoreline ended up being blown out.
I said to my dad when the game happened, I said to him, if the Dogs are getting close and South are winning by 1 or 2 or whatever, I'd say the NRL would have paid the referee, the Rabbitohs would have paid the NRL underneath the table and said, if the Dogs are close, let's start favouring South Sydney so you can't have Latrell Mitchell lose his 150th milestone match. I bet that's what's happened.
No. The media would have been willing a narrative that Latrell Mitchell wins his 150th game. And turns out, media right, they got their narrative. I don't know exactly. What they're doing behind the scenes. They're probably doing something, don't want to go
paying big bucks under the table.
Oh, no, not those big bucks, but mesmerised, I'd say the least. But we got to remember, that scoreline is not reflective of what actually happened.
No, what the Dogs...
We were kicking ass. We were absolutely sticking it to South Sydney early.
And scored the first try of the match.
A beautiful length of the field from Jake Averillo. That set piece where they get Carraz in from the wing, put Cody Walker at odds, and then Averillo just used his speed to his advantage. Then, every New South Welshman, every Doggies fan like me, the moment Josh Addo-Carr went down with syndesmosis was like,
oh dear.
That was game-defining moment number 1. That was.
I believe that if he comes back on time, he's got 1 week to prove himself to be fit for Origin. 1 full game.
I honestly doubt he'd actually get picked for game 1. Game 2 would be more believable, I'd reckon, from there. But if Freddie overlooks him again for the whole series...
Well, I mean, game 1 he's probably in doubt because of his injury, which is fair. If he hadn't been injured, I'd say yes, he would have got a recall.
Look, the Rabbitohs, they just pressed their advantage. They had a centre defending out in the wing. They had a back row defending in the centre. So no surprise where they were focusing most of their attack after Cam Murray got on the board. No surprises.
Yeah, that's a bit of a strange one too, because I thought they would have brought Josh Reynolds in to replace Matt Burton in the half and Burton to centres. That would have been the most realistic and sensible thing to do. But they decided not to do that, and that really unfortunately didn't help the Dogs' cause of pushing on with the result.
It didn't. But then when they came back in the second half, because we got to remember they scored it twice in the second half. Matt Burton got denied once, then he got another try up as well. And you're thinking 26-12, this brings game on. South knock on. It was around about the 54th minute. They knock on. Canterbury pack a scrum. But then what happens? I'll tell you what happens. The NRL screw us over again. Nothing new, but they invent new ways to screw Canterbury over. Because what happens? Jared Sutton, he takes the game back 5 tackles to say, oh, Jacob Preston, hip drop, on report, 10 in the bin.
Which was not a hip drop tackle.
I was screaming at my TV saying this was an absolute outrage. This was a disgrace beyond any imagine.
As we're watching the game, like, I messaged Connor and said that was not a hip drop tackle.
No
it's
way
just
that was.
how their ankle was. It's just how the foot was positioned and how the tackle was made. Luckily, he got off.
He got off because the match review committee had the sense that Jared Sutton was lacking in the brain. I mean, my God, if you don't take it back to that point, to the non-hip drop, the Bulldogs could probably force it to 26-20, or even, God forbid, because the NRL don't like seeing it, a Bulldogs win on Good Friday.
Yeah.
But no.
You want Latrell Mitchell, who's the poster boy for the NRL, to win his 150th match.
And sure enough, he starred while doing it. 3 tries, 2 try assists, 191 run meters, 4 tackle breaks and offload, and 7 from 10 goals converted.
And his 2 try assists, I believe, went to Campbell Graham,
who also
got
scored
a hat-trick. And his 3 missed conversions are from the sideline.
From his preferred side for goal kicking.
Yeah.
So, absolute disgrace that game. Should never have gone down that way. It should have been a lot closer than what it was. Absolutely destroyed any hope the Dogs had of pulling off a miracle comeback.
Yeah, it should have been a lot closer game than what it was.
Further north, the Dolphins, well, they actually bounced back in fine fashion, to be quite fair.
They certainly did.
A lackluster Cowboys side, again.
Yeah, look, Cowboys, I don't know what has gotten into them this year. They were, top 8 last year?
Top 4. They were top 4.
Year. And now they're not even in the top 8, I don't believe.
No, they're in the bottom 4 as it is at the moment. But
so I don't know what's going on with them, but Dolphins, I just said to you before we started, the Dolphins have been a real surprise packet this year. One of these surprise packets.
They certainly have been. They had no expectations to set early on because we didn't know what to expect. Now that we're a month and a half into the season already gone, they're sitting 4-2. I think we now know what to see out of the Dolphins.
And yes, they are getting into a bit of an injury crisis at the moment. In suspensions. Like, had no Kafusi, and then we've had no,
O'Sullivan went down with a peg. Milford went down with a hamstring. Then they lost Jesse Bromwich in the lead-up to this Good Friday clash in Townsville with a throat injury, just an illness.
Yeah. So they were getting a bit of an injury crisis, but they are starting to somewhat get troops back on deck.
I think you looked at the Dolphins, they went back to their game plan of the fast pace, use the speed of Hammer and Marshall King through the middle, because they were playing like that again. That combination between the two of them was working and getting their momentum upfield. But they identified Brendan Elliott as the weak link in the Cowboys' left edge defensively.
And it certainly paid off for them. They were scoring down their left, right, seriously, everywhere. When they targeted. Yeah, and it worked. Asako got 3 tries on that side.
The second try was an absolute pearl. That's end-of-year highlights stuff right there.
Yeah.
To be able to out-jump Elliott, catch, and then score all in the one motion, mind you, that's an end-of-season highlight.
Yeah, bloody oath it is. But credit to him, 3 tries in the first half of football. You don't see that happen very often.
And the fact that the Cowboys couldn't convert this into a potential win just shows where they are in contrast to the Dolphins.
Exactly.
I mean, you're right. Jermaine Asako, he gets my full 3 votes for this week. 3 tries, 161 run meters, 1 tackle break, 3 line breaks, and 4 from 7 goals converted. But I can't ignore this guy either. Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow, he gets 2 votes once again for the second time in 6 rounds. 2 tries, 1 try assist, 136 run meters, 11 tackle breaks, and 2 line breaks.
Yep.
Without Jesse Bromwich, without Sean O'Sullivan, and Isaiah Katoa,
and without
playing
Felice
well
Kafusi
beyond
as well.
his years. Felice Kafusi, wasn't there either.
They're just playing absolutely top football at the moment.
And look at the kind of opposition they've beaten. They've beaten a heavyweight in the Roosters in round 1. They went down to another contender in the Broncos by a try. They knocked off a top 4 opposition in the Cowboys, where no one probably would have expected them to beat them. And they've just absolutely been turning heads everywhere they've gone.
But that's what you get with Wayne Bennett as head coach too.
But going into this game against the Rabbitohs, there are a lot of questions about how well they're going to dig here.
Well, yeah, it's going to be very, very hard for them. Still no Kafusi. But then we've got Robert Jennings there instead of Edric Lee. But Robert Jennings is quite capable. But then they have to come up against Latrell Mitchell. Alex Johnson's back for South, so that's a big into. Well, yeah, who knows? I reckon it's going to be one through the middle.
Well, having Jesse Bromwich back is a big boost for the Dolphins. To get their inspirational skipper back into the side couldn't have timed it better anywhere else in the game.
And both dummy halves of Cook and Marshall King are quick from dummy half.
Oh, they are. But
so that's going to be a real game changer as well right there.
I think if the Dolphins are to win, they got to drag, like with the Broncos-Raiders game, the Dolphins have to drag the Rabbitohs into a position they don't want to play in.
Yeah.
They have to drag them into the gutter and turn this into a street fight. Because if South Sydney flex their muscle, all's with Walker, with Johnston, with Latrell, South Sydney could easily pile up a scoreboard here. But the Dolphins don't go away, so that's another thing defensively.
No, they don't. They stick with it.
But I think ultimately, even if the Dolphins do manage to drag the Rabbitohs into the gutter, I think there's still enough in South Sydney for them to drag themselves out. The Rabbitohs win this 1-6.
I'm going to go Dolphins win this one 1-6. It's going to be a cracking way to start off round number 7 of the NRL.
Oh, yeah. It's all the blockbusters on a Thursday night nowadays. How does that work out?
Also, Channel 9 want the rights more than to have it more often.
Well, if they did, they'd be permanent Saturday night fixtures.
Well, true.
Now, moving on to the first of the Friday night games. It's the Cronulla Sharks up against the Sydney Roosters. The Roosters get a big boost by welcoming back Captain James Tedesco into the side. So Joey Manu goes into the centres. Corey Allen dropping back to the reserves for this one. Matt Lodge also been included after Fletcher Baker was ruled out with concussion. Andrew Hutchinson and back to the bench, Jake Turpin dropping out of the side.
As for the Sharkies, Wade Graham is back from his suspension and Oregon Kafusi is back from his concussion. But Toby Rudolph is out with a foot injury and Alpha Nukin is now out for his suspension. So, am I reading that right? I have got that right.
Yeah, Delph Nukin got suspended for the hip drop.
Yeah. Royce Hunt and Cameron McInnes have been promoted to the starting side. Braden Trindle drops out of 17 altogether. With Thomas Hazelton set to make his debut, I'm guessing off the bench.
Yeah, he'll be off the
bench, yes.
And once again for Craig Fitzgibbon's side. Of course, the Sharks had a full week to reflect on that narrow loss to the Warriors, whilst the Roosters went down to the Storm 28-8 in Melbourne.
Yeah, the Roosters were pretty much nowhere to be seen in that match against Melbourne. Melbourne were just way too good. With Jerome Hughes being back, I thought it would have been a little bit closer than what the game ended up being. But Melbourne were just way too good in Melbourne. But look, I think the thing with the Roosters, having no Tedesco there, would have probably hurt them a little bit.
It wasn't just having no Tedesco there, but I think the biggest moment was Victor Radley getting sent to the sin bin. At 8-6, the Roosters are up in front by 2 before he goes to the sin bin.
Yeah.
But the moment he does, that complexion changes absolutely in a flash.
Do you think it was worthy of a sin bin of what Victor Radley did, or was that just because of his
I was listening to it on the way home on Triple M radio, and Dan Ganane described it as absolutely contentious.
Yeah.
Because I can't see what he was seeing in calling that game from wherever he called, whether he was at Amy Park or he was just simply sitting at a Triple M Sydney studio watching the game on TV like everyone else that you might not see. But when I actually did see it, that probably ended up in the sin bin You can't just do that. Can't just
No.
whack a bloke like 5 seconds after the ball's gone.
Yeah.
And it was that bad a hit.
Yeah, it's true though. But there's someone saying that it's because of his reputation too. It also got put in sin bin. But yeah, it was clear sin binning there.
Oh, believe me, if it was on Luke Keary, no one would bat an eyelid. But because it's Victor the Inflictor, it's just like, oh, loading of the judiciary. See you later. Sit down for 10.
Yeah, exactly.
See, the Roosters get at the rub of the green just as much as anyone else does.
Yeah, true. Regardless
And
of what everyone
from
says.
that moment, Cameron Munster stepped up and took charge. 1 try, 2 try assists, 209 running meters, 8 tackle breaks, and a line break. Picking up the, my standout award for this week. He's really putting some form together. And now it's Cam Munster.
Since he's come back, or even before he was out and he's come back, he's just picked up where he left from, really.
Yeah, I probably agree. I mean, it did cost him defeat against Canterbury when he wasn't there, but since stepping back into the furnace, Melbourne have been a lot better for it.
Yeah, look, Cam Munster is just on another level at the moment. He's in career best form, and he has been over the last couple of seasons.
He's got to be the best 5'8" in the game.
At the moment, yeah.
By a considerable length, considering you've got Jerome Luai, probably number 2, Jack Whiten, probably somewhere in the top 5. I can't say whereabouts he'd end up.
I have to agree.
But you looked at how well the Storm, especially down the Roosters' fragile right side defensively, with Hutchinson in the side, Paolo Butcher, Nat Butcher, I should say. The fact that the Roosters have not won back-to-back games in Melbourne for a while, like we're going back to 2005.
Yeah.
The last time the Roosters won back-to-back games in Melbourne.
But yeah, Melbourne is hard to win at. Only very few can do it. Like the Roosters' opposition, the Sharks.
Yeah, but the Sharks, they've done it a couple of times as of late, but their form recently hasn't been good at all.
Yeah, but
much to be desired.
Well, yeah, regardless if it's back-to-back or not, the
In
Sharks
patches,
have managed to
clubs can win in Melbourne in patches.
Yeah.
I think you'll find. Canterbury, they were able to win in Melbourne for some time in patches, but then again, they had a good overall record against the Melbourne Storm. It's practically even keel after round 2's result. But back to this game, of course, the Sharks, they got to deal with no Dale Finucane, who was basically leading them out every week. Toby Rudolph's a big loss, but I think compensate. Royce Hunt gets another chance to start, and then Tom Hazelton's not exactly a twig coming off the interchange.
No, he's not. And the Sharks are fresh off a bye.
Though that really counts for nothing.
Yes, I know that, but it's still... They've had a week off after having a strong start to the season.
Could you say they had a strong start to the season, the Sharks? They went loss, win. They won back-to-back games before losing to the Warriors.
An average start to the season. Well, probably not to their standards. I mean, the loss
Not
against
to the same standard they set for themselves last year when they basically just, after the loss to the Sharks, to the Raiders, I don't know why I said Sharks. But after round 1's loss to Canberra last year, they just took off from there. They just strung a couple of wins together. Nico Hines was just earning Dally M points left, right, and centre.
Well, that loss to the Warriors was a surprising loss. So they'll be looking to bounce back on that one. And they would have had time to reflect on that too. Could this be the game where the Sharks start pushing off from where they've had an average start to the season? This is where
they need to address the error count that was going on in that game. I genuinely think there are 4 or 5 errors in their last outing that led to tries from the Warriors, or defining moments that could have easily swung the other way if the roles were reversed. But Tedesco back in the lineup, that's a big in for the Roosters.
True.
He will fix up. When I say fix, I don't think there will be a lot of things, but I think defense will be a big thing the Roosters are going to look at. And I think Tedesco being back, I think it's a tenfold improvement already. And they've only lost once when he was in the side, and they've lost once without him. He's a major difference for me, and I think the Roosters get up in the Shire 1-6. I think it's another tight game, but I don't think the Sharks have got an answer to counter Tedesco.
Look, I think the Sharks will actually win this one. They played really well at Shark Park, generally. and the form that Hines has been in at the moment, he'll easily take control of the game. I'm just going to say the Sharks should win this one 7 points to 12.
So you're calling it a Cronulla win?
Yep, 7 to 12.
Well, they've got the potential, but it's the matter of executing that's going to...
Roosters haven't been flashiest either this year.
You got to remember the Roosters are 4-1 or 4-2 at this point after 6 games.
No, but still.
Or is it 5? Yeah, no, it's 5. 3-2. God,
Yeah.
The buys just make your timings a little bit off when you're calculating the win-loss record at the moment.
Yeah.
Here we go. The major Friday night blockbuster. We are at Brookvale Oval, 4 Pines Park, if you want to go by its commercial semantics. The Manly Seagulls up against the Melbourne Storm.
For the Storm, there have been significant changes. Just before the team list was released, Nick Meaney was ruled out this week with concussion symptoms, with delayed concussion symptoms from the win over the Roosters, which puts Cameron Munster at fullback, and Jonah Peasant gets another shot at the halves alongside Jerome Hughes. Farlago is on the extended bench. Nelson Sofa Solomona is close to return, possibly round 8. And he has resumed training alongside Pappenhausen last week.
Well, a major blow for Anthony Seibold's side. Of course, Ruben Garrick failing his HIA, so he'll be stood down now for 11 days. So, in his place, Raymond Tuaimalo Oviega will now take his place on the left wing. Cooper Johns recalled into the halves, but although Josh Schuster has been named in the reserves, Tom Trebojevic, despite suffering from back spasms, has been named to start at fullback. Whilst on the bench, Toa Sipley and Aaron Woods will play off the pine with no Carl Lawton due to him doing his shoulder in the last outing against the Panthers. Sean Kepi, 18th man, where Manly rather embarrassingly went down to the Penrith Panthers 44-12.
Yeah, that was a pathetic performance on Manly. They were 32-0 down at half-time.
5 tries in the first half alone.
Yeah.
Not good enough.
No, not
But
at all.
like the Dogs, they lost Ruben Garrick to that HIA early, and once you lose an outside back and you're not well prepared for it, you're going to get screwed over big time down that side.
That's
and
exactly
Ivan Cleary
what
correctly and clearly identified the way they needed to go, and Penrith just ran the show from there. They were very good defensively in the first half. Possession evened up, penalty count evened up. Manly got on the board. Tom Trebojevic got a try. Jason Suh up in his sideburn.
And it's return match.
Scorched up blue bet.
Yeah.
But it was the Panthers show all night long.
Oh, bloody oath, it was Cleary, perfect off the boot. They were just on fire, literally. Typical Penrith style footy out of Penrith, or literally wherever they go.
They were very comfortable at home. Once the game swapped with Garrett going down, they realised they could get easily up on top. Manly's edge defence, especially with Kelma Tuolangi, KO Weeks. He might have been actually out on a wing despite initially being named in the halves, and then Carl Lawton going down. Manly went down because defensively they just couldn't handle the reshuffled combinations.
Yeah, exactly.
Dylan Edwards gets my free votes for this week. 4 tries, 190 run meters, 13 tackle breaks, 3 line breaks and an offload. And for 2 votes, I've got Nathan Cleary. 1 try, 2 try assists, 185 run meters, 3 tackle breaks, 1 offload, 1 goal line dropout, and perfect off the boot, as you said, 8 from 8 goals converted.
Typical Penrith fashion. There's really not much to say bad about Penrith in that game.
And even
Besides
about James Fisher-Harris, that's the other thing as well.
Yeah. And still no Liam Martin. He's a force to be reckoned with when he's there.
I think they're starting to find comfort in their hooker rotation. I mean, some people not happy with Mitch Kenny as the starting hooker, but give it a year or 2. Sonny Luke will soon surpass him.
And everyone's saying Sonny Luke is very like Api Coruscant.
It's
very
all
like
about
him.
steady progression and development. It's the same story with Stephen Crichton. It's the same story with Jerome Luai. There were more experienced players that fans probably didn't want to see, like Dean Vare. James Maloney, I will say that you would actually rather James Maloney at like pre-2019 before Jerome Luai. But then Farre moves on, Maloney moves on, and then Luai, Stephen Crichton, they just took to the game like a duck to water.
Why do you think Penrith got the best juniors in the league?
It's
best junior system in the league.
It's that steady progression of having the experienced player in the position first, then when the time is right, they will take over. Luke will take over.
And this is why they're one of the best, if not the best team in the competition at the moment.
By a mile. By an absolute mile. Now this is going to be the 12th anniversary since the infamous Battle of Brookvale took place between two heavyweight contenders, the Manly Seagulls, who were premiers in 2011, and Melbourne, 2011 minor premiers. This is just, even without Nick Meaney there, who has done a job for the Storm, nothing really changes with them. No.
Munster's still there. He'll control the game from at the back. He'll direct them around the park where he wants his defenders and attackers and all that stuff. And then they'll just execute it.
I think they found their steely defensive resolve that got them to where they were in the first place as one of the Premiership's heavyweight perennial contenders. They've rediscovered that even if they have to miss 100 tackles a game just because of the good attacking side they're getting thrown their way, then so be it, as long as they're not conceding tries.
Exactly.
Interestingly enough, Melbourne have not conceded more than 3 tries in the last 3 weeks or so. They have, since round 4, after suffering back-to-back losses, they have conceded 2 tries or less in their last 3. Roosters, Rabbits, and of course the West Tigers.
The West Tigers.
So defensively, you've got to really work hard to break the Melbourne Storm down at this point in time. Manly, I am not convinced Tom Trbojevic is anywhere near 100% match fitness. No. It was on show with the back spasms where he needed probably the morphine injection just to try.
They said he needed a painkiller injection to get through the game.
Where he needed the injection just to try and ease some of that pain. I'd be looking to put him under the high ball just to really test him out. And as you're right, Munster will continue the playmaking, and that extra option of Jonah Pezzett in the halves. Looking at Justin Olam, Xavier Coates to really have a crack at Jason Saab's match fitness, I would definitely have to say. For me, Melbourne win this 7-12. It'll be off the back of Cameron Munster, I reckon, for a 3rd straight week.
Yep, agree. Melbourne 7-12. They'll be too good, even with those changes. I personally would have put Tyrone Wishart at fullback and get Munster in half, but Munster at fullback is still a good option to have with Jonah Pezzett and get him more experience.
Now focusing on Westpac Super Saturday, we are back in Auckland, and for this clash between the New Zealand Warriors and the North Queensland Cowboys, Todd Payton benefiting from a couple of inclusions this time rather than being out on the sidelines. Murray Taulagi has been named to make his return, so Brendan Elliott drops out of the side altogether. Jeremiah Nane returns from suspension in the second row, which puts Mitch Dunn up into the front row. I think no changes from last week. Tom Chester and Riley Price both retaining their spots in the side, but they have now lost Griffin Neame for 2 months due to a serious throat injury.
Not good at all. As for the Warriors, well, Tamari Martin and Wade Egan are gone. Martin with a leg injury, Wade Egan with concussion protocols, so 11-day stand-down policy. So Dylan Walker replaces Martin with Freddie Lussick going into dummy half in place of Wade Egan. Tohu Harris has been named to return after 2 false starts. Ed Cossie and Montoya have retained their spots, with Watinza Lesniak still in reserve grade.
Despite scoring 4 tries in a big win for the Warriors in their New South Wales Cup win.
Yes.
Whilst the main side went down to the Newcastle Knights 34-24. Oh, look, I got to say, the Knights back 5 absolutely rolled the Warriors middle.
Yeah, easy.
And losing Tamari Martin doesn't help, especially when you're down a half, and then Wade Egan getting concussed, so they're down to 15. It just showed what happened once 2 key men in your spine are gone in the same instant.
Well, when Newcastle started putting the lead on the Warriors, I thought, oh no, the Warriors are gone here. But they did somewhat fight back.
But look, the back five turned the game for the night. I think Lockie Miller, sharp shooting with the goal. Dom Young really, he had another good night once again. 5 tries in the space of 2 weeks, even though he got dropped for a game. His efforts to really put Newcastle on the front foot, not just with his try and with his ridiculous 20-meter restart that got the Knights up to the other end of the field in no time at all.
So he got a 20-meter restart, tapped the ball, ran a little bit. Lockie Miller was there in support, and Lockie Miller ran a fair chunk of the field, but got pulled down. But
they just immediately loaded left, and Greg Marju scores. So he's doing all right as well.
he got 2 tries.
Isn't that also 5 tries for him in the space of 3 weeks?
I believe so. He got a double against the Warriors.
Double against Canberra.
There's 4.
And might have gotten a try or 2 against Manly in the draw. But I have to say, Bradman Best. 135 run meters, 3 try assists, 1 tackle break and an offload. But my God, the try that he set up for Phoenix Crossland, how many kicks have you seen like that actually produce a result?
Not very many. But that was a very, very solid kick from Bradman Best. He retains his kicking license.
Oh, yes, very much so. Andrew Johns would have been all over him if he didn't get that kick pulled off. But that was just a freakish kick. Left footer, back to the in goal. You think it'd go dead for all money.
But no, somehow Crossland got there.
And yeah, absolutely incredible little try assist from Bradman Best right there. And then, of course, it was a beast like Greg Marju playing to his outside as well. Always helps. Tyson Brazil, another good game. 1 try, 120 running meters as well.
Played the full 80 minutes.
Really the only forward that made more than 100 meters. I mean, Croker didn't, Thompson didn't, Johns didn't, Daniel Safidi didn't.
Which is rare for Daniel Safidi because he usually cracks the triple figures.
But yeah, no. The Knights back 5, working the Warriors on the gun side over.
There was a bit of controversy though.
Yes.
Warriors got disallowed a try for apparently obstruction, but was not obstruction. In my view.
Obstruction interpretation needs a lot of work. Just make it black and white so everyone can understand it. The fans and the non-fans. Because this is just getting ridiculous. Especially given 2 weeks earlier, they said the exact same thing, but didn't result in the Warriors getting a try taken off them when they beat the Dogs.
Exactly. That was a bit of bullshit, that one. But
So it's just like, you're fucking with me, right? You're honestly fucking with me. Like, you say 1 week when the Warriors beat the Dogs in a very controversial fashion that Reed Marnie was not obstructed, only for 2 weeks later, same club involved, but this time you decide, oh no, you're actually obstructed, let's just take the try away, penalty Newcastle.
exactly.
You screwed us over. Get over yourselves, or more to the point, blow the bunker up. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
What good has it done in 7 years? Name me one good thing the bunker's actually done, because there's a litany of controversy and scandal that has plagued that bloody Redfern tech head.
Yes. I can't name a single good thing. Anyway. Back to this one though.
Hard to call. It is honestly too hard to call.
Well, I did predict the Warriors to draw with Newcastle. I mean, that
did not materialise one bit.
Well, it looked like it was going to at one stage when the Warriors were behind by 4. But then
Newcastle, two quick fire tries at the back end.
But the Cowboys haven't been playing the flashiest this year either.
No, their defence was ultimately exposed.
And
those with Brendan Elliott. They've changed that up so they get some of their system back with Talangi back on the outside of Valentine Holmes. But the edge forwards are still a big issue. I mean, Jeremiah Nene better have a firecracker shoved up his ass and told, oh no, not firecracker, a rocket put up his ass and said, start performing, mate. We paid big money to try and keep you. I mean, I get it. You're only 20. You've got a big, bright future. Queensland and Australian reps are probably continuing to come your way. but you gotta start playing like you're a $900,000 back rower.
Yeah. I mean, he will. He will eventually get back into that groove, but it better be sooner
But
rather than later.
it's not just Nene. I think just because he's one of the Cowboys' higher earners, Tamalolo, he needs to start laying the platform.
Well, now they've got Drinkwater back again after missing him out. That did unsettle them a little bit when Chester was at fullback without Drinkwater.
I agree, but they still managed to get at least one in with Chester at fullback.
Mind you, Chester did an outstanding job filling in for Drinkwater.
It's really the effort the Cowboys are lacking. I mean, they had a big year, made it as far as the prelim, all the hard work they put in the 2021 offseason that paid off. Then it was just like did they really start cracking the whips and chains when they went back after the World Cup? You can see it. They haven't.
No.
They just haven't. They need to start getting back into that hunger. They don't look hungry. They should be if they want to win a premiership. And many people think the Cowboys can still go all the way at this point.
I don't know. It's fading away from them. I mean, they've got more of a chance than the bloody Tigers.
Oh, everyone's got a better chance than the Tigers.
Even Parramatta, even though Parramatta have only had, 2 wins, they've still got more of a chance.
Easily of making the 8. And then, of course, you can whittle that away for who can win the premiership. But losing Martin doesn't help. I don't know why they didn't name Ronald Volkman after another good game in the New South Wales Cup.
New South Wales Cup, yeah.
But look, I think the halves pairing of Walker and Johnson, it's untested. It just forces a lot of pressure to go back on to Johnson. Even if he does stand up, I think the Cowboys will work Walker out very quickly, and it could turn into a bloodbath in Auckland. I think the Cowboys go ahead 7-12 and try and start building something.
I'm going to go with the home side. I'm going to go with the Warriors 7-12. It's a bit of a hard one to predict this one. Like I said, the Cowboys haven't been playing the flashiest of either. The Warriors are down on a few key players like Egan and Martin. But I think they can still somehow get the win over the Cowboys. So like I said, Warriors 7-12.
It was a good start for the Warriors, but I think you can easily see where the wheels could start falling off. And then someone like a North Queensland who had the wheels already falling off at the moment, now try and start to say, let's try and tighten the screws and let's get back to what got us into the top 4 in the first place.
Yeah.
Now, turning our attention to Newcastle once again. The Knights are back at home against the defending premiers.
Panthers unchanged, although there could be a late change with Liam Martin included in the reserves. And Luke Garner is included in the extended squad. Otherwise unchanged. Then why would you need to change that squad?
A big blow for the Newcastle Knights. Jaden Brayley, it's been confirmed, has been ruled out after doing his ACL for the second time in 3 years. So
same one as well.
Yep, same aim right knee and all. So Phoenix Crossland will now start at dummy half with Kurt Mann shifting to the bench. Matt Croker shifting to lock 4, or with Jack Johns back to the bench. And Tyson Gamble gets a recall to start in the halves.
Yeah, it's just a kill of a blow for Newcastle.
This just shows how stupid their recruitment decisions have been. The only other recognised hooker they had at the club was Chris Randall.
He's not there anymore.
He swapped to go to the Gold Coast, where the Titans have an endless supply of hookers now with Cruz Leeming, Sam Burrells, and Chris Randall. And Aaron Clark, so that makes 4. They've got 4 hookers.
Technically Tanner Boyd as well.
Well, Tanner Boyd's now a manufactured halfback.
Yes, but he can still play dummy half, though.
But in terms of pure recognised hookers, like first choice hooker, the Titans have got 4. Newcastle had 1. That was Jaden Brayley. Now he's gone for the rest of the year again.
Yeah,
and how stupid is it for Adam O'Brien and Peter Parr to let him go? And the recruitment
they've got the better end of the deal.
Clint Zammit, last recruitment director they had. Clint Zammit, the last recruitment director they had.
I don't know.
I don't think that is the case, but I did hear that the Knights recruitment director did walk out in recent times, even though he never was at the club to begin with. He was based in Townsville the whole time.
Yeah. But yeah, it's unfortunate for Brayley, but you can play Kurt Mann there, even though he's more of a utility Kurt Mann.
Kurt Mann is the ultimate everyman.
Yeah.
I mean, play him at full. You can play him at fullback. You can play him at wing, centre, 5'8", halfback, lock forward, back row. Hooker apparently now he just has played everywhere but the front row. And
Which, if you put him there, you'd still be able to play
if he
there.
bulked up, maybe you could try him in the front row. But other than that, no.
But yeah, it's very unfortunate there for Jaden Brayley. But for his Crossland, well, he'd probably be guaranteed a start every week now. Barring injuries for him.
The last 3 weeks, Newcastle have shown guts and doggedness as to try and really force teams on the back foot. They scored 3 tries in 10 minutes against Canberra to fight back from a 14-8 deficit. They pushed Manly all the way to a draw, and Manly thought Manly would cakewalk them.
Well, even against the Dolphins, yes, they lost to the Dolphins, but it was still a very solid performance for a losing
They
side.
fought back from 18-12 down to be 20-18 up, but then the Dolphins found a second wind and just ran away with it.
But still a very solid performance on a losing side, though.
But you are looking at the two-time defending premiers who have gone 97-24 as a fortnight scoreboard. 97-24.
Yeah.
And they have not conceded more than 2 tries since the grand final rematch.
That's also true.
Same story in round 1, same story in round 2. By round 3, grand final rematch was a different story. But other than that, Penrith's defensive record has been very strong, and their attack has now started to really open up.
Yeah. I mean, it's typical Penrith style.
Forward packs, you might say, a little bit more even with no Fisher-Harris, but if Martin and Garner get it named, you're dreaming. Tell them you're dreaming.
Martin could be a late inclusion, though.
The Panthers win this one for me. I think it's a little bit more comfortable than the last couple of weeks. I think Penrith win it 13-20.
Yeah. Penrith will... Nothing against Newcastle. Newcastle will try, but Penrith will just be way too classy. They'll quickly turn it into their favour. And yeah, Penrith wins this one 13 points to 20.
It'll be a Novocastrian bloodbath where the Storm or Water Drains will run red because all the dye ran off the Knights' jersey.
Harsh, but probably true.
Now to the ultimate South Queensland derby to wrap up Westpac Super Saturday sees the Gold Coast Titans at home to the now defeated Brisbane Broncos. One change for the Broncos. Tom Flegler ruled out with a HIA after going down to the Raiders 20 points to 14. So, Obi Hetherington will get his first start back in the side after injuring his, believe it was his biceps or knee long term. And Corey Jensen moved to start in the front row in the only change from that loss.
As for the Gold Coast Titans, there have been some changes with no Toby Sexton who's been left out. Out of the whole 22-man squad, with Kieran Foran back, so he slots straight into there. Tom McHaley, he is set to make his club debut alongside Cruz Lehman, who gets another crack from the bench. And otherwise unchanged for the Gold Coast.
So who would Tom McHaley come in for? If you say he's going to make his debut, where does he come in?
No, he's off the bench. Oh, no, he's not. Hang on.
He's in the reserves.
He's in the reserves.
Cleese Haas is the 18th man.
Yeah. But it reckons he says set to make his club debut off the bench.
So I will ask you the question again. Who will make way? Is it... I'm thinking at this point, it's either Vuna or it's Isaac Fasua-Malawi.
That's what I was thinking. You keep Cruz Leeming there. You keep Aaron Clark there. There's 2 dummy half options off the bench.
Well, leaving the more recognised dummy half, Aaron Clark trying to transform into a ball running middle.
Yeah.
And if they're intent on keeping the Fasua or Malawi brothers going, I think it's got to be Joe Vuna that drops out.
Yeah. I was leaning towards him. Unfortunate, but...
I'll tell you what is unfortunate. Kieran Foran coming back. And think of it this way. Toby Sexton was the Gold Coast halfback for the first part of last year. Lost his way because the Titans lost their way. He got the fall, took it. He comes back. He wins the game for the Titans 20-18 over St. George Illawarra, but is made way for Kieran Foran. I think mad disrespect.
It is, but Kieran Foran's obviously the more experienced playmaker. and he's got less time in the NRL than what Toby Sexton has.
Yeah, that's probably the case, and the fact that Foran's paid more than Sexton anyway, so there was really no doubt about that.
Yeah, you're not going to keep I don't know how much Foran's on, but you're not going to keep
fair bit. I reckon a fair bit.
You're not going to keep
the Titans would have had to have paid overs to get him to the Gold Coast.
Yeah, you're not going to get him like a top player like him out, keep him out as long as for much longer than what you need to.
But focusing on that game, I think the Titans, they got return serve essentially for a month earlier.
Yeah, well, Dragons absolutely kicked their ass in round 1.
2.
Sorry.
You didn't play round 1.
Well, our round 1, but yeah, round 2.
It wasn't your round 1. There was no round 1 for St. George Illawarra.
Well, game 1 for us.
Yeah, better, whatever. But what was the go with Francis Molo avoiding getting sin? Oh no.
Jaden Sewer got charged.
Yes, Jaden Sewer got charged for a hit drop and didn't go to the sin bin. That was horseshit.
He got fined $1,800.
Then Frank Molo decides to start throwing them inside 3 minutes. That's where I was really going. He starts throwing hands inside 3 minutes, and then he gets binned for it.
And now misses 3 to 4 weeks.
3 weeks, actually.
3 weeks.
So, yeah, he will not play Anzac Day against the Roosters. He will not feature in this upcoming clash with the Dragons against Canberra. And against the big Bulldogs pack, he will also miss out.
But he should be back in Magic Weekend.
Oh, you'll be back against the Tigers, but it's the Tigers.
Yeah. But I think that's the game he will be back for.
But I think the Titans, they really started shifting game plan. Even though there was no Brimson, Jaden Campbell just decided, I'm going to create something off the back of my own initiative. If send a forward crashing into the line, then run out and try and get the offload in a good position. And then he helped create an overlap, which saw the real star of the show, Philip Sami, really he flexed some muscle.
It was a tit-for-tat game.
It was.
Titans scored, Dragons scored, or vice versa. No, Dragons scored first, then Titans, and Dragons and Titans. Dragons and Titans, and ultimately.
You got this ultimately confused. You don't know where you're going with it.
Well, the Dragons had scored the first try. Then the Gold Coast scored their first try. Then the Dragons scored.
Forced? What is this, New York?
First try.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so it was try for try, goal for goal. Literally goal for goal, barring...
When Lomax wasn't missing them.
We only missed that one.
It was the one that mattered the most.
Yes, I know. But still, it was a very tight affair. Again, what I said to you in round 2, Dragons-Titans games are nearly mostly closely contested games. Example A on the weekend.
Wouldn't that be example B, considering this is the second meeting of them? And the final one at that?
Well, you know what I mean. Example B, then.
Yes, there we go. But Philip Sami, 1 try, 275 run meters, 14 tackle breaks, 3 line breaks, and an offload. In a very close encounter. David Fafita, he probably would have been a second pick if I was awarding anything less than a 375 run meters and another 80-minute stint.
Very good.
He could still be a chance for Origin. Tries have dried up as of late, but good running game. If you pull an almost 200, I reckon. If you're a back rower, if you can pull more than 150, I think that's all right. But
yeah, that's pretty
I
solid.
know some back rowers don't like running that much or don't run for 150 meters a game, but for him...
Some do, some don't.
For him, he's getting up there, but I got to feel sorry for Ben Hunt.
Yes, so do I.
From hero to zero. It's just cruels you
unfortunate.
sometime.
It's just very unfortunate. And guess what's hit the media again? After that loss, Griffin's future in doubt. He's back in the headlines again after that one loss.
Well, the word is the Dragons are already beginning to search for another coach.
Oh, we knew that weeks ago.
Yeah, but it's got to be a matter of who they're going to get. Is it going to be Des Hasler? Is it going to be Michael Maguire? Is it Jason Riles?
If we get Michael Maguire and he starts performing shit with us, I'm switching clubs.
To the Dogs?
No.
You soft cock.
I'll probably go to the new boys on the block, the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah, sure. Betray all us, you bloody cane-toed softy.
Nah. I'll probably go for the local club, Newcastle.
Ah, you sad individual. See,
No.
you don't win with me when I roast you like this. You just cannot win.
Nah, look, I'll stick with the Dragons through and through. I'm not saying Mark Maguire's a bad coach, but... Yeah,
At least he'll actually have control of the salary cap, unlike others.
yeah, true. But yeah, obviously our number one target is Jason Rolls, and we need to snap him up fast if we are going to get him. Because otherwise, if we don't, then Melbourne probably will. If Billy Slater knocks back the roll.
I reckon Slater will. I reckon
Knocks back the roll?
This is just the distraction to take the pressure off Riles.
So you reckon Billy Slater will knock back the roll to let
It's a
Riles-
media ploy. I mean, you know Billy Slater, he's not just the Queensland Origin coach, he's a Channel 9 contributor and a Sideline host. This is just a media ploy set up by Frank Panisi and by Craig Bellamy with his blessing to take the pressure all about Riles, so they're not talking about Riles, they're only talking up Billy Slater's chances of a head coach gig. So when Bellyache goes, Riles comes out, Billy doesn't have to do anything apart from coaching Queensland.
Fair enough. But yeah.
The Broncos need a bounce back.
Oh,
Plain
bloody
and
yes, they
simple.
will.
They got rolled by the Raiders, as we said. Defensively, they did not handle either side of the field well. Jordan Rapana pulled their pants down, running from dummy half, and cutting back in on their left side defensively after Ezra Mam, I think it was, rushed up.
Danny Hope getting a cut to his head.
That probably shouldn't have been a penalty. That was just pure accident. And thankfully, like with the Preston non-hip drop tackle, the match review committee saw sense not to charge Marty Tapa'u.
Yeah, that's good. It was accidental. He needed 20
But what about
stitches.
Selwyn Cobbo's try? I will say,
Oh, that was bloody freakish.
That was, my God.
Contender for try of the year.
Oh, end of year highlight. End it to the highlights reel. Honestly,
Yeah,
this
true.
highlight, this is at least going to be 10 minutes worth of unbelievable tries from multiple clubs, from multiple games, often in the same game at the same time. But the Broncos need to learn, and not so much, learn's not the word, but the Broncos got dragged to a place where they didn't want to be with all their finesse. We saw it at Knife's Edge against the Dragons. They got belted for an hour. Then Haas comes back on for a second stint, opened up Reece Walsh, and the Broncos just pulled on the tries. Against the Tigers, they were good, but they had moments where they lapsed.
Yeah.
This time, the Raiders absolutely ambushed them. They got to learn from this experience, and
They're now 5-1.
still top of the ladder, but they got to get that hunger back. They need to be able to
Oh,
bash
they definitely will.
They got to start bashing teams through the middle themselves.
And then a derby. Another derby.
Southeast Queensland derby.
Yes. So many freaking Queensland derbies now.
Well, I think Queensland derbies just loosely lose. I mean, you got Broncos Titans is your Southeast Queensland derby. Broncos Cowboys is the definitive Queensland derby.
The Broncos Dolphins is the Battle of Brisbane.
Yeah, the NRL's edition of the Battle of Brisbane.
Yeah.
Cowboys versus Dolphins is now the Central or Queensland derby.
Yeah.
Because of the Dolphins' footprint from Redcliffe all the way to whereabouts in Central Queensland? Was it Rockhampton?
I believe so.
Yeah, so that wedge between Brisbane and North Queensland, and then Cowboys Titans is just the North v South Queensland derby.
Yeah, true. But yeah, so another Southeast Queensland derby. The Broncos should bounce back though.
Yeah,
The Titans don't have the strength.
I think the Broncos, they'll be hungry to settle the score, and against the Titans, they'll want to make an example. So I think the Broncos do bounce back, and I think they'll bounce back 7-12 here.
I'm going to say Broncos back 13 points to 20. They should win this one quite comfortably.
Now, on to the Sunday afternoon doubleheader sees the Canberra Raiders at home to the St. George Illawarra Dragons.
For the Dragons, Zane Musgrove is coming in for a swap with Frank Moller, who's out. Tauta Moga replaces Ravalawa. Don't know why Ravalawa is out. There's no word on that.
Is it form-based, or is it something else?
I don't know. Otherwise, it's unchanged with Toby Couchman still keeping his spot in 17.
Well, two big ins for the Canberra Raiders, but also had a big out. Jordan Rapana, of course, with the 20 stitches. He's been ruled out after suffering that awful head gash. So Albert Hopper-Wati shifts to the wing, or just stays on the wing, really. No changes to the back line other than the return of Jack Whiten at 5'8" after missing the last 2 weeks through suspension. So Brad Schneider drops out, whilst Joe Tarpany is back in the front row. So Peter Holler also goes back to the interchange. So some big ins.
Also missed Nick Kotrick is back.
Yep, Nick Kotrick back in as well from a hamstring injury. So ultimately he'll go back to the right, and Albert Hopper-Wati will stay on the left edge with no Rapana.
Very good timing, actually, you could say.
For Kotrick to come back, yeah.
Yes. Timing is key. And Jared Croker keeps his starting spot. Man, I'm not saying he made a difference, but he kind of did make a difference there with Canberra.
Goal kicking. It's a very big thing. Not a knock against Jamal Fogarty, but to have an ace like Jared Croker back in the lineup, and I think the push now is
300.
Yeah, 300. I think most capped Raider, greatest Raider of all time.
Hey, I think he would.
Oh, it might be a bit of a stretch. Mal Meninga, Ricky Stewart, Laurie Daly, but to be in that company as one of the club's greatest clubmen.
Yeah. Look, I think he should have already got it by now if he wasn't out for injuries and all that, but hey, rugby league happens.
It certainly happens.
And so be it, but he'll definitely, hopefully, get it this year. And he was closed in on, I think, Cameron Smith's record of most points.
I don't see him chasing down Cameron Smith's
record. He won't
record.
get it now, but he was chasing it down, though.
He was close, yeah. He was, at best, I reckon he could still pass Hazem El Masri.
Yes.
That's as far as I see it. That's probably...
Yeah.
If he stays on the side, still goal kicker, doesn't get injured again, because remember, this is a man, for the majority of his career with this club, averages 20 games a year.
Barring last year.
Barring last couple of years.
Yeah.
But an absolute consistent performer for the Raiders. Doesn't get the plaudits. It doesn't get the rep on as many of his other teammates or even other centers do. But he's
unlucky
just
to not get New South Wales spot when he was at his peak.
Yeah, a little bit unlucky, but he will do a job for Ricky Stewart. And he's got the ultimate faith of the Green Machine behind him. Tarpany coming back in is a big boost to the forward pack, especially with the rate Corey Horsburgh's now found himself in, a good patch of form.
Yes, very much so.
Now, these are two forward packs they'll be looking to bash each other into the ground. The Raiders need to be able to back up what they did to the Broncos against a lesser opponent.
True. But the Dragons are too hot and cold this year.
Yeah, 1 minute they're going toe-to-toe with the Broncos, and the next minute they're getting...
absolutely annihilated by the Sharks.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily toe-to-toe with the Broncos. Knocking the Dolphins over, and then, of course, that thing with the Broncos and the Sharks in back-to-back weeks.
Yes. But yeah, too hot and cold. The Raiders, that was what, their...
second win of the year.
Second win of the year. So, really, it's hard to tell who's got the better form heading into this match.
Whiten coming back in is a big boost for the stability of the halves, and Joe Tarpany will stiffen up the forward pack as well. If they do back it up, and I think at home it's a big advantage as well, I think the Raiders do win this, but not by much. Canberra win this 1-6.
The Dragons' record in Canberra is very mixed as well. But Canberra is more of a likely Canberra win than their opposition. I'm going to say Canberra win this one 7-12.
Yeah, I think it's a back-to-back wins for the Raiders. And I think this is the sort of game they need to win if they want to bounce on in towards the top 8.
Yeah.
And finally, to wrap up round 7 of the NRL, it is the Parramatta Eels up against the Canterbury Bulldogs. And there is good news on nearly all fronts for Camp. And despite losing Josh Addo-Carr to a syndesmosis for 2 months, Tavita Pangai Jr. will make his first appearance of the year in the front row. Viliami Kikau and Raymond Faitala Mariner will also return in the back row and at lock forward respectively. So Corey Waddell and Ryan Sutton return to the bench. Sam Hughes who drops out after making his debut off the bench. Harrison Edwards, Kurt Moran both return to New South Wales Cup now that more top 30 forwards are returning. And Braden Burns will also start from the wing with no Adokar for Cameron Serraldo.
As for the Eagles, Junior Paulo will turn to suspension, with Weremu Gregg reverting to the bench. Shaq Murchie drops out of the 17. And no changes that beat the Tigers.
Only just beat the Tigers on Easter Monday, 28-22. But that game could have gone anywhere, to be honest.
Yeah, so let's see if it was the Tigers playing poorly or Parramatta. Well, were Tigers actually playing good or were Parramatta actually playing
The
poor?
Tigers did find a groove. Believe me, in the second half, they did find a groove that really troubled Parramatta. Because for the first 20 minutes, it was all the Eels.
Yeah, it was like
Mitchell Moses had the ball on a string. You looked at all three tries that the Eels scored down their right-hand side. Blindside raid. Moses kicks back for Brown. Gufferson scores the first try after turning away the Tigers early. So they showed good defensive result of when the Tigers were actually coming, even though they were really eating up to the defense. And it's like putty. Then Cartwright on a good chase to the end goal. He bags a try. And then Will Penasini as well.
Yeah, they just...
The only try the Eels really let in was a Stafford Toa intercept because the left side of the Eels just rushed up too early on the ball, past the point, and Toa dives on it to score.
And that's what happens when you rush up too early.
Then things started to get a little bit looser in the second half. I mean, the Eels are still adding tries to the board, but I think Sean Blork goes onto an end. John Bateman moves to the middle, and Bateman was really starting to cause some trouble around the middle.
But there's also some more negative news on the Tigers.
Brent
Naden went down with a suspected collarbone injury after scoring his try, and then Adam Dewey's been confirmed his ACL is done.
That's sad.
His third ACL in the same knee, I believe.
On the same, just like Jaden Brayley, the same left knee where he did it in 2018 and then a partial tear as well.
And all it was for Adam Dewey, he just, received the ball, he contested
a short
the ball,
drop out.
He got the ball and just how he landed, and that's what did it.
That was it. And the moment it goes cold, you're screwed.
Yep. So that's a big out for the Tigers.
The fact that they had to rely on Luke Brooks to try and guide the side home.
Well, now they're going to have to do that for the rest of the year.
Oh my God. I mean, John Bateman should get better than what he is getting with the Tigers at the moment. He was their best.
Who will go captain then? Brooke Coruscant?
Well, Coruscant's still the captain.
Oh, that's right.
But it's the first...
Goal kick will go to Brooks.
Probably will have to go to Brooks at this rate.
Unless Coruscant massively improves in training this week.
But Mitchell Moses, even though the Eels sort of lost their way in the second half, it was still good enough to be declared my standout player. 106 run meters, 4 try assists, the third time he's done it in his career, 1 tackle break, 1 line break, and 4 from 5 goals converted.
Solid.
Yes, very solid.
It's Mitch Moses, come on.
And
his contract drama's out the way, so...
Club hasn't officially announced it yet, but he's gone on the record and said, yes, I have re-signed for the next 4 years after 2024, or I'm staying with the club, and I will probably finish my career there.
I'd say you would. Hopefully he wins a premiership or 2 with him.
Well, I think there's still a lot of issues the Eels need to look at.
Defense
is still a bare bug at the moment. You look at the margins. Against the Sharks, they could have won that game, but Will Kennedy just dragged them kicking and screaming into that. Missed opportunities against Manly with goals. I think that's what cost the Eels there. The Roosters, 2 players sin-binned.
Yeah.
They need to start really building some consistency going forward. Easter Monday was a good start, but it just wasn't a great start.
Yeah.
And I think having Junior Paolo back as well,
That's a big in.
It is a big in that I think will really hurt the Bulldogs' chances of trying to recover after the farce that was Good Friday. And at home, I'm not going past the Eels to win this 7-12. I think Canterbury will fight, but I mean, without Adokar, an attacking option that's gone down, and Parramatta have got the runs on the board to basically kick on from here.
Yeah.
Just in the bottom 4, but I can see by Magic Round that they'll be in the top 8. For me, in my opinion, the Eels will be back in the 8.
I'm going to say Bulldogs win this one and win the 6 with the likes of Kikau, Talman and Pengai Jr. back. That will definitely help the Dogs big time.
But just not this week.
No, I still said Bulldogs won the 6. Who knows? My tip has been atrocious this year.
So am I.
You're doing better than me.
Only just. It's
Just.
not really a boast.
Oh, and one other prediction, the bye to beat the Tigers.
Yes, I think the bye is...
By 21 plus.
Can we just say a by one Adam Dewey?
Yeah.
Because apparently now Adam Dewey counts as the bye, so...
Okay.
Well, you know, but
Yeah.
just where the Tigers are at the moment.
But yes, the bye to beat the Tigers by 21 points plus.
All right, so that's everything to do with the NRL for this week, but don't go anywhere because coming up after the break, we'll have everything to do with round 9 of the Betfred Super League. Is this the week that Warrington finally go down with injury? Not injury, but finally an L on the board. Can Wakefield finally get a win on the board? And what the hell was Jake Connor thinking? Find out after this short break.